Today on Canning with Leah, we are canning green beans. So that means it's officially the start of green bean season. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be picking green beans and doing all sorts of things with them. So the first thing I'm doing here is making quart jars of canned green beans. And 4 cups actually.
4 cups actually. Well, that's just a little gimmick.
Oh, it just tells you on the side how many cups are in there. So yeah, I've got my little green bean snipping assistant Lila here helping me out today. She's a big helper with that. So we went and picked the green beans this morning and got them all washed and drying here in the strainer. So we're going ahead and just cutting them in about, I'd say, 1 to 2 inch long pieces and packing them into our quart jars. Now these quart jars have been cleaned and sanitized, and so basically you just start by cutting them and packing them into the jars. So now I have the beans all tightly packed into the jars, and I leave about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch at the top of the jars open. And so I ended up with 7 quarts, which is the amount that I need to put into my pressure canner. And so with the beans, we do a teaspoon of canning and pickling salt into the quart jars. And if it were to be pines, you would just do a 1/2 teaspoon. So we'll go ahead and put a teaspoon in each of the jars. And while I'm doing that, I have a pot of water boiling on the stove because we want to fill these with boiling water. All right, so I have the salt added to the jars. And now that I have the water boiling, we'll go ahead and carefully with the soup ladle, put the boiling water into the jars. And when I fill them up, you just gotta give it a bit to make sure that all the air pockets release. And then I fill the water within about a 1/2 inch to the top of the jars. So now that I have the water added to all of the jars, I'll go ahead and wipe the rims of the jars with a damp paper towel. And then also, I have a bowl of water over here that I've microwaved until it was boiling. And I put all of the lids for the jars in there. So I just do that in the microwave. And so the lids have been in there for a while, a few minutes. So then we'll go ahead and take the lids out now. And I have this little fancy lid grabber with a magnet on the end. So we'll add the lids to all the jars. And then while I'm adding the lids to the jars, I have my pressure cooker preheating here. So I've got 2 quarts of water in there, and I've put it on high so it can start preheating. Just trying to be efficient with my time. And then now that I have all the lids on, we'll go ahead and put all of the rings on. You might need to hold the jar with a hot pad because they are going to be pretty hot. Okay, so I've got the rings on all the jars, so now I'll go ahead and add them to my pressure canner. And again, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I have a vintage pressure canner. I would say it's probably from either the 70s or the 80s. It's an old Presto pressure canner, which I'm very partial to the old ones. They seem to be solid and sturdy and heavy duty, but if you don't have access to get an old one, go ahead and get a new one. That's fine and dandy too. So I've got all the jars added to the pressure canner. Now I'll go ahead and secure the lid. It's always important to make sure that you have it very tightly secured. And now I've got that on, and we'll go ahead and put the weight on top of it, so the rocker, I guess you could say. And for green beans, you do quarts for 25 minutes and pints for 20 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. So I just watch the pressure gauge. Once it starts gaining pressure, I keep it at 10 pounds, and again, I'll do that for 25 minutes. So now that it's been cooking at 10 pounds for 25 minutes, I'll go ahead and shut the stove off. And it's very important that you go ahead and let the pressure canner release all of its pressure before you release the weight at the top. And so now that all the pressure is released, we'll go ahead and remove the weight. And then we'll carefully remove the lid. Then we'll go ahead and using the little jar grabbing tool, we'll go ahead and remove the quarts from the canner. All right, and then one thing that I just want to mention is just to make sure that you follow the instructions for your specific pressure canner. So it's good just to familiarize yourself with the instructions and read the book that comes with it to make sure that you're doing things properly for your pressure canner. And thank you so much for joining me for this video. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Canning with Leah.